Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It's now Friday, the 11th day of September 2020. We have an awful lot to talk about. The tropics are about as busy as you will ever see them. But believe it or not, things are about to get even busier. So let's jump right in, shall we? All right, get rid of my mug and let's move on to the wider shot here of all of our different systems. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 areas of interest. 2 of them are tropical storms. 4 of them are not quite invest areas, but several of them are. We're really going to focus on 96L and Paulette right now. I'll talk a little bit about 95L out here south of the Cabo Verde Islands, but this is not going to bother anybody anytime soon. And we have a lot more time to deal with this than we do with 96 and Paulette over here. All right, so that's my game plan. 96L recently got updated and upgraded at that update to 70% chance of development. I think this is going to go and become a tropical storm and maybe even a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. It's trying to get its act together. The models have struggled this year with tropical cyclogenesis. The models, not picking up on the birth of these systems very well at all. And we know that the environment out there is very warm, very moist, etc. So let's look under the hood, as they say, and see what's happening. And you can see an area of energy or vorticity right here off the Florida coast. Another area over here in the Gulf, but this is nothing to worry about. This is inconsequential for the most part compared to what we've got with this, and I'll show you on satellite in just a moment. In the meantime, Paulette is getting better organized. It's going to bust through this trough, kind of make it through this mid-oceanic trough that we've had out here, this very broad, large tropical upper tropospheric trough. It's going to come through the other side, and the conditions are going to be very favorable. And for our friends in Bermuda, you're going to have pretty rough weather, it does appear. And it doesn't make landfall over Bermuda. Hard to say. It's a small area. Bermuda is not just one island, in case you didn't know that. And I'll actually show you in just a moment. But we've got to watch Paulette very closely. Renee, a non-factor, at least for impacting land. And then we've got 95L over here, which we have to watch very closely. We really do. A couple of areas in the Pacific over here, but these are generally moving away from land and nothing to worry about in terms of any impact for land areas. All right, so let's look at the satellite animation of our systems. Kind of hard to believe, looking at this, that the Madden-Julian oscillation is, I think, in phase 6 or 7, something like that. It's not in phase 8, 1 or 2, where it favors the Atlantic Basin. So we are not in a favorable Madden-Julian oscillation period, and despite that, there's these systems here trying to get going. Some of them already going. Renee's got some problems, going to get sheared apart. It's got some dry air to deal with, etc. But I really believe that 2 things are going to happen. Paulette is going to become a major hurricane, in my opinion, and really start racking up some ace points. I think 96L is going to try to develop and may surprise us. We're going to have to really watch that, especially since it's so close. And then 95L, that's the one right here, south of the Cabo Verde Islands. I believe this becomes a major hurricane as it gets farther to the west and also starts to really accumulate those accumulated cyclone energy points, the ace points, meaning that the quality of these systems is going to start to go up more rather than just having small systems that are short-lived. I believe we're going to start to see some stronger and stronger impacts because these systems are going to be stronger themselves. And that's despite not having overall favorable conditions with the Madden-Julian oscillation in the Atlantic. That's coming later, it does appear, down the road, probably towards the end of the month into October. And we still have lots and lots of tropical wave energy over Africa. All right, so let's zoom in. This is invest area 96L down in the Bahamas off the east coast of Florida. And you can see there's definitely some broad rotation in here. Probably a very sharp trough of low pressure. If you analyzed it, just looking at it from the visible satellite animation here from the weathernerds.org site, weathernerds.org, clearly you can see the rotation in here somewhere trying to form a broad low-level center. And right now it's bringing showers and thunderstorms to the Bahamas, and this whole mess is going to move in the general vicinity of South Florida here over the next 24 hours, crossing Florida and on into the Gulf of Mexico. So you folks, anywhere from Canaveral on south through the Keys, gusty winds, lightning strikes with some of these. There's a few lightning strikes being detected by the GOES 16 lightning detection that it has on board. Gusty winds, like I mentioned, and so small craft in port, down in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, any of these popular boating areas. If you're in a small boat, you better be careful, all right? Because this is going to generate some rough seas. Travelers down I-95 and the Turnpike, etc., I-75 across over to Naples. Yuck. This is all heading your way over the weekend. It will bring impacts. So let's make this very clear, because this is strengthening as we speak. It's trying to organize right now. So we keep it in perspective. No, it's not a hurricane coming in. And no, I'm not blowing this out of proportion. I'm trying to keep it so that you understand the impact. Forget what it's called. What's it going to do? Okay? So this is going to bring inclement weather over a very densely populated area. So if you're traveling, like I mentioned, on any of these major interstate systems, you got interest down there, this is going to impede that. Any outdoor plans you got this weekend, this is going to impede that. And reminding you, you got interest on Lake Okeechobee, down in the Keys, etc. Waterspout threat could be increased. Gusty winds, I've already mentioned that twice. This will cause problems. So think of it as, well, that's bigger than me. It's more powerful than I am. It's going to bring impacts. I better be ready. And to give you an idea, go to weather.gov, weather.gov, and read the local statements down there from National Weather Service Miami over here, National Weather Service Key West, and just get an idea of what to expect. They will have local information for your area, and we'll watch this very closely. I don't have time to get down there. I would love to head down there and maybe even get down in the Keys, depending on where this system tracks. Studying one of these as they form is always really interesting to me. I was down in Florida when Katrina did that back in 2005, 15 years ago. I'm not saying this is going to be a Katrina. Goodness, we hope not. But I can't make it down here, but it does look like this is going to pop out into the Gulf and become an issue for somewhere along the central or northeastern Gulf. I don't know. Maybe the central. We'll take a look. Trying to figure it out. So looking at the heat content, definitely robust upper ocean heat content in the vicinity of 96L right in here. Same is true all the way across, whatever track it takes. Even this area where it doesn't look like there's much. Yeah, there might not be a lot of upper ocean heat content, but the surface temperature of the Gulf of Mexico in there is very warm. 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, ample energy. There's plenty of moisture in the atmosphere, none of that dry air hindrance around here to speak of, nothing large scale. So this honestly has a shot at becoming potentially a hurricane. And the statistical guidance shows that. The statistical hurricane intensity prediction scheme, or SHIPS model, definitely seeing that. And even the intensity consensus right through here does make it a hurricane. Some of the global guidance, not so much. But I'm not worried about that. The global models have been pretty bad this year at picking out the birth of these systems, much less, they didn't, quote, think that Laura was going to be darn near Category 5 3 days before it did so, and Laura made it to 150 miles per hour. So you folks on the Gulf Coast better watch this extremely close. New Orleans, Gulfport, Pensacola, all the way over to maybe even Lafayette, Louisiana. A lot's going to come down where this forms, the low-level center, if it tracks over the peninsula versus the Keys. It has more time to organize. We really, really need to stay on top of this system closely, not only for South Florida. The threat there is imminent, but especially for the Gulf Coast. And I will definitely be making plans to head down there. We've got plenty of equipment. Thanks to the crowdfunding support, I got equipment coming back from Denver that I shipped Doesn't matter this year. There's been other years where I've been like, oh no, I got to get my equipment back. No, we're well taken care of thanks to our crowdfunding partners. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yes, I will be heading down because this definitely has my attention. Another system that has my attention and should have yours if you are in Bermuda and the entire east coast of the United States, plus the northern-facing beach areas of the Caribbean. This is Paulette. And Paulette's going to be a hurricane again. Look at the dense, packed lightning profile in here. That's incredible. A tremendous amount of lightning indicating tall updrafts, ice crystals in the upper atmosphere, and this is strengthening. It's getting better organized, even in the face of some shear that's still going over the top of this. That's going to relax. It's going to get through that upper tropospheric trough, and Paulette is going to become a major hurricane. I think you can put me down for 125 miles per hour, plus or minus 5. That's what I think. I think it'll make it to 125 plus or minus 5 when all is said and done. And this is going to be a real problem for Bermuda. And here's our tracking map, by the way. This is one of the benefits that you have access to. I don't have an official cool name for it yet, so I'm just going to call it our super tracking map, the HurricaneTrack super map or something like that. This was actually coded up through a collaborative effort, mostly by Will Woodgate over in the UK, with Jason, my childhood best friend who now works at SAS Institute in Cary, and Howard Simons from Bermuda. And Howard is the subject of today's Paulette version of this discussion. All right, so let's zoom in. This is a great map, and not only do you get the tracking, but all these layers over here. You have access to this if you're a crowdfunder. I hate to say that it's a subscription because it's not. It's a membership into something that's building this entire enterprise, and this is part of it. So let's get to this part first, and I'll talk about that later. So here's the track that you can see, and you might be wondering, well, where's Bermuda? Bermuda is made up of these islands over here, part of the overall Bermuda Ridge out in the Atlantic, and Paulette, the official forecast, brings it just to the east of Bermuda. That's the center point, and they show it as a Category 2. Again, my official prediction, if you will, my gut feeling is 125 miles per hour, plus or minus 5. All right? So if we zoom in even more, you can really get an idea here that, either way, if this comes into the west of Bermuda, that would be worse because you'd have Bermuda in that right front quadrant over here. Coming into the east of Bermuda, you still get the easterly flow as it comes towards Bermuda, but then it's not as bad as the core passing. So we got to watch this closely. It's still a few days out. We click on this little 2 here, and it gives you when this is valid for. So it's still several days out, 4 days out there, 8 a.m. on the 14th of September, actually 3 days out, at 100 miles per hour. So I think it'll be stronger, and interest in Bermuda, but not just Bermuda. Need to watch this closely because what's going to happen when Paulette gets up here, it's going to generate these swells. And a lot of energy is going to get input into the ocean, and that's going to translate out towards the coastline here all the way. And it's not exactly like this, but I'm just trying to give you that idea. They're going to emanate and propagate out, and those will also come to the south here and impact the northern beaches of the Dominican Republic, the Bahamas, the Caribbean islands. All right, so this will have impacts, and unfortunately, I hate to say it, this will also kill people along North American beaches because people will inevitably get out in rip currents, which are going to be excessive because of this, and they're going to lose their lives. But maybe not. I mean, I can't reach everybody, but you got to understand, even though this is going to turn out and people are going to call it a fish storm, that's kind of annoying, but Bermuda is land. Good people live there. I know some of them personally. And then the waves are going to come out and hit the shoreline. And the surfers are going to love it. But inevitably, somebody's going to go down to the coast. You can get neck and back injuries from high waves crashing. I'm not kidding about this, okay? There's going to be impacts. Coastal flooding in some cases, depending on how big the wind field is and how big these waves get. We will talk about this more. I'll ask Jack Sillen, who is helping to contribute, taking the load off of me a little bit. to talk more and more about the waves from this system in a couple of days once this gets back to hurricane strength. But the other thing in Bermuda, Howard, he is one of our supporters and a good friend of ours. I've never met him in person, but we have lots of interaction with him on our chat as well as through email. Howard's got 3 of those drop sensors, those pressure sensors, plus another handheld Kestrel. I think he's got 4 total. And so we're going to have data, at least from Howard. It's not like nobody else lives in Bermuda, that Howard's there by himself, but at least we're going to have that. You know, I can't get to Bermuda due to the pandemic. The process that you got to go through of getting tested, registering, and everything, it's just a nightmare. So there's no way I can get to Bermuda. I would if I could. I could afford to do so. But the whole COVID thing, I'm not saying it's insurmountable, but the odds are that I could get stopped. You know, all they got to do is just think, well, this guy is a risk to Bermuda, and they either don't let me in, they quarantine me there, or whatever. It's just, that's the world. So we're going to rely on Howard. It's all up to Howard. And he can take pictures and video, send them to me. I'll post it to you guys. But you'll also hear from other people in Bermuda. But seriously, in Bermuda, you guys know hurricanes. I've been there for Gonzalo in 2014. Bermuda is built on rock and rocks, plural. Bermuda is tough. Bermuda is prepared. Bermuda is cool as a cucumber when it comes to these things. But it doesn't make it any less dangerous, or, you know, it doesn't make it like, oh, it's just no problem. You're going to have problems with this, and depending on where it comes in and how developed the core is, you know, you could get quite a hit. So we got to watch Paulette very closely for Bermuda, and as I mentioned, for the swells that will be coming out towards the shorelines of North America and the islands. All right, so the GFS 12Z, kind of got it zoomed in here so I can show you what's what. We'll keep with the blue. So here's 96L in the Bahamas, and here is Paulette. You know, we're really not going to worry about 95L right now, although it'll come into the frame here in just a minute. We got days to worry about 95L. So these are our players, and so let's just look at this frame by frame. So you see Paulette moving through out of my blue circle, and you see this energy now by 36 hours Saturday night right off the coast of Florida there, to the west of Sarasota and Venice and vicinity. This could go. It reminds me a lot of Gordon in 2018. Did a very similar thing. Gordon never really made it to hurricane intensity as it came up and eventually made landfall over here. Not this same exact track as I'm drawing, but it reminds me of Gordon. And you also see how well organized in the 850 millibar field, that's what we're looking at, Paulette is. Very well organized hurricane. This shows me the structure. In 36 hours, this is a formidable hurricane. All right, so it's going out further into time, 48 hours. And just to mark Bermuda right now, let's get it done. There's Bermuda in blue. And here's our system in the Gulf. The GFS doesn't, quote, show much. But don't let that fool you. Do not look at this and say, the model doesn't show anything. It's not going to do nothing. People are just full of it. Well, maybe we are. Maybe, you know, first I'd say full of what? I'm not predicting anything. I think from instinct, this has the potential to develop into a significant tropical storm or a hurricane. Absolutely. And we have the ship's guidance that suggests it based on its parameters. And we just know how dismal the modeling has been. That's a little exaggerated, but it's not been real spot on this year. So you got to watch this area very, very closely, all right? So let me get rid of that, and then we'll put Bermuda back on right there. All right, so then we go to 72 hours, and you see what happens there. Boy, Paulette, just to the west-southwest of Bermuda, the core right here, roughly, which is interesting because the Hurricane Center track is up something like that, whatever. It's to the east, as I showed you. GFS is to the west, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. In the meantime, again, not much reflection in the 850 millibar level from the GFS, but don't let that fool you. You know, you look at it right now on satellite, it's already looking pretty healthy. And so to think out in time that it's going to not consolidate as it moves across, I doubt it. I think that it does. And if I'm wrong, that's great. It's seriously, that's great. It could just be a big rainmaker, which in and of itself can be problematic. But anyway, 78 hours, Bermuda gets sideswiped here by Paulette. And again, let me just go back in and mark Bermuda real quick. Bermuda is right there. We go back. See how it goes around Bermuda? So this would put Bermuda easily on the east side. And so what really worries me here for Howard and everybody else, if the Hurricane Center's track is on the east side of Bermuda and the GFS is on the west side and you split the two, well, I think you can figure it out from there. So be ready. And I know Howard will be. This could be rough. It's a shame that I cannot get to Bermuda because of the dadgum virus. So it is what it is. If anybody knows anybody with Bermuda meteorology or Bermuda government that can assure me that I won't have any problems, I won't even have to get near people. I can self-isolate at Grotto Bay Resort or something and not even get near people. I'll wear 2 masks if I have to. Seriously, but honestly, it's a real pain in the butt. But it is what it is. So let's continue on. So it goes past Bermuda. And then you look and see here, GFS closing off one little height line there. Thank you, Windows 10. Just on the toe of Louisiana. This would be late Monday night into Tuesday morning. Finally, I guess you could call it a landfall into southeast Louisiana. And that is that for that system, more or less. So definitely heavy rain and other effects we already talked about down here. And then somewhere along the Gulf Coast, heavy rain, onshore flow, some coastal flooding, a good bet. What else with it? Well, we'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, the elephant in the room, really, this system. Soon to be whatever, either Sally or Teddy, depending on what gets named first. Yeah, we'll have to watch. And if you've watched the GFS, latest runs take this up and turn it out. The runs yesterday were bringing it in and up into the Gulf. We have seen this before. You know as well as I do that we got to just wait and see. It's way out in time. This is 130-something hours. Let's just fast forward this to 144, 168. There, that's a week well east of the islands. This time yesterday, you want to compare? Sure, we can compare. Yesterday, it was over Hispaniola. All right, so yeah, we shall see. It's all about the ridging and the troughing and the whatever. You know the deal. It's not set in stone one way or the other. All right, so we are supported by our patrons. Barking dog. My son is here with his little dog. He's a college graduate now from NC State. All right. But he brought his dog down, visiting for a couple of days. You might hear it, you might not. Anyway, we're supported through you guys. And just mentioning it again, maybe this is the first time you've heard about it. And if you've heard about it a lot and you want to tune out, I understand. But you become a sustaining member of what we're doing. It's much more than a paywall or a subscription. You have access to all of our camera systems, the super tracking map or whatever we end up calling it. And even at the $25 level, if you want your name at the end credits, you can help kind of be a producer, if you will, of our series, The Hurricane Highway. There's other levels, not just these 3. It goes all the way up to, even the bucket level, right? If you want to go on a hurricane mission, you can fund the whole darn thing for us. You get to come along. It's, Brent does that. That's what Brent helps with, if you know Brent. So that's what it is. It's patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. We tie you into our HurricaneTrack Insider site where we have all the cameras, the chat, the super tracking map, and much, much more. And that's how we fund it. It's crowdfunded science, and the age of crowdfunding is absolutely incredible. And we want to continue to grow it and do more stuff. It's not about me getting rich. It's about me being able to have a job, sure, but then grow things. The whole reason I was able to go to Colorado was because of our patrons supporting that, 100%. And being able to go to the Gulf Coast with no worries at all, Sunday or Monday, whenever I got to leave, maybe tomorrow. I won't have to worry about funding it because we've got the support. That's what it's all about, all right? All right, I'll shut up, get this online so you can see what's happening. As always, I appreciate you tuning in from whatever device it happens to be. It's awesome to have you on the other side, listening and watching. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.